Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Can I help you? I jumped a little and quickly placed the shirt back where I found it, taking a look at the rack. Yes, I want to find a corset. All right, sir. I think you want to know about a women's corset. Did you have a certain style in mind? No. I don't know what to say because I've never had a lot about them. I'd be happy to be your guide then, sir. Do you know that corsets have been worn for more than 3,000 years? They have a long and interesting history in the past. Most people today think of the Victorian or styles from the late 1800s when you talk about a corset, but corsetry has changed a lot over the years in style. She led me to a small table in the back of the room as she talked. She gave me a coffee and walked out of the store. She brought a big book with beautiful pictures. The very first pictures were of several statues from around 1700 BC. The very small waists and sagging hips made it clear that the woman was wearing something called a corset. Those figures are Minoan, but to be honest, there wasn't a big trend for corsets until the Renaissance. On the next page, she showed a woman with an impossibly small waist and hips so long and pointy, you could put several encyclopedia books on shelves and have room for more. A corset from the Elizabethan era could do that, she paged through. They came up with this one in Spain. Their corsets looked more like metal than clothing. In museums, you can see samples made of solid iron with holes in them to let her skin breathe, even if her lungs were not able to. When they first used whalebone to tighten a corset, it must have felt great. She turned the page once more. You might be interested in this one. During this time, well-bred men also wore corsets. She had a point. The man in the picture was wearing what could be called a dress. His waist was so very small, but his lady friend had wider hips than him. It's a time I wish I'd lived in because I could have kept the beard and still dressed up. My happy guide had turned the page again. You will see how the woman's waist seems to move up and down, as the only thing that stays the same in corsetry is a very tight fit. It ends up with a small waist everywhere. The French loved lacing in the 18th century. What the picture showed was a woman holding on for dear life to a pole while her maid and helper laced up the corset. Men wore corsets too. How do you think this military man kept so straight as a board for hours on end? That small fact most scholars seem to skip over. These are corsets from the Victorian and Edwardian eras. That's the early 1800s, and you can see that the guys were not left out of this either. This is most likely the kind of thing you were thinking of, right? Most of the people you know. It does look like something I've seen before. And please, don't call me sir. It sounds a little silly when you talk about corsets. Yes, Mac, my name is Janet. She put out her hand and I took it. In the late 1800s, women wore these kinds of corsets as well as the early 1900s. What the pictures looked like were from a Sears or Montgomery Ward's magazine, like the ones you see in old shops, very common. She turned the page. This one is different. It's from the 1920s. The picture showed a dress with straight sides and no pinched waist at all. To succeed in a man's world, many women thought they had to look like men. Wearing a corset has been slowly going down since the beginning of this century. Changes in women's roles and the availability of elastics made from modern fabrics, but even that is out of style. Still, there are people like you who make corsets possible. Interesting, Janet. I didn't realize the subject was so complex. This is what I said about my need to look acceptable in public, and she just smiled. It would be best to get a corset without breast support. That way you can wear your own bras with a small waist and good hips. We have different kinds of padding so that your hips make the right shape. Given your limited time, getting a custom-made one isn't practical, but you might think about one later. Let's go back to the changing room. I think the room was about 6 by 8 feet, bigger than your normal changing room, but big enough for 2 people to fit easily. It looked nice and had a big table and comfy chairs and a beautiful wooden floor-to-ceiling mirror framed in wood. I took off my coat and she took my measurements, then asked, "Did you bring your forms and a bra?" I admitted it. Good job. You can put on your bra so I can fit you properly. This is your first time, so I want to stress again that our entire staff will promise to keep your needs completely secret. And I want to promise that you will feel completely at ease in letting me put your corset on. We treat all of our clients, men, women, or whatever, with the courtesy and special attention you deserve. It was quiet when she left, and I did nothing for a moment. I'm not sure what I was hoping for when I came, but this nice, well-spoken woman's complete acceptance and cool, helpful manner was more than I could have hoped for. I put on my bra. Not until much later, when I thought about that wonderful afternoon, was I shocked at how good it felt to sit waiting for Janet to come back in my bra and underwear. With a light knock, she came in carrying a few boxes. Let's start with the essentials. This one is made for everyday use. The material is a mix of cotton and others. It can be washed, and the boning is made of flexible steel that will mold your body into the right shape. I believe you should wear this to the party. Now, since I've chosen to assume that you will be dressing yourself, we have front-lacing models for you. She put a plain white corset around my waist and fastened the hooks at the top, so it hung loosely. It extended from just below my bra band to mid-thigh. I fumbled with the many hooks until they were all in place. It's not terrible, but maybe a little more would be better. Now, it's important to tighten the laces properly, a little at a time, to ensure the corset fits snugly on your body. I pulled on the laces and felt my middle get squeezed. Don't try to tighten it all at once. You may have heard of corset training. It's really smart to gradually get used to wearing a corset. Now turn around and have a look. I turned slowly in the mirror. My body was clearly more feminine, with a marked waist and hips. I was pleased and told Janet so. I believe your behind needs a little more padding. Let me try something else. Loosen it up. She inserted a different pad, and I laced up the corset again. That's much better. Just let me pin the cover in place. The cloth was shiny black with a hint of red ribbons. It wasn't as long as the first one, but the hip flare was more pronounced, even to my untrained eye. The black beauty hugged my body like a second skin. Janet adjusted the hip support just right before tightening the laces. I was instantly hooked. I liked the way I looked in the mirror. Janet, secure the cover, and I'll take both of them. One last thing was left to try. We probably won't be able to have everything ready by Monday. I thought you could start with a simple cincher. It's not going to help you get used to hip pressure, but it will start to accustom you to the waist. Again, I think you should start slowly and gradually tighten the closure. With that suit coat on, I think you could wear the cincher home without anyone noticing. Wow, what a salesperson. Not only that, but I bought a couple of pretty tops. The feel of the cincher helped ease my letdown when I left Betty Jean's. I had looked forward to putting on my new corset right away. To feel better, I decided to get my ears pierced. Half of the guys these days had earrings, after all. It was important for me to be able to wear something pretty in my ears next Thursday for the photo shoot. The piercing itself was pretty painless. These ears hurt for a few days, but every time I scratched, I felt the pin and it felt nice. As soon as they were ready, I practiced putting on my corsets with all the zeal of a new believer. I gradually tightened the corset, but I have to admit it got old really fast. How did women put up with these things every day without killing the stupid men who made them wear them? I was sure I had to wear it to the party, but after that, I planned to wear looser clothes. Well, most of the time. I felt great by Thursday and was ready for my first simple ad. If getting ready wasn't such a chore, it would not have been fun. Instead of just putting on a dress, I had to get there early enough to wear the corset and do makeup. I tightened the corset's laces, looked at my body for a moment, then slid into a snappy blue dress that wasn't quite a skirt but was very nice. I thought I looked pretty good. Maybe this is why women wore corsets even though they were painful. Very nice, thank you. It was just after I finished my nails when Jerry stopped me from thinking. He had a big case for makeup on his back. Hey, Mac, that's right, I told you, you look pretty good. Are you ready to learn? I was. He talked about each step and why it was important, letting me look at him in the glass and telling me to do it for myself to get used to putting on makeup. He talked to me about cover-up for beards, makeup, blending, and all the other things a girl learns growing up, but that made my head spin when he squished them into a half-hour session. Fear not. You can learn to do this on your own in 15 minutes. If you're going to get really into cross-dressing, you could get your beard lasered off and it would be easier for you to look good. And don't forget, this isn't the makeup that you would want to wear if you were going out in public. We need to be a lot less for the camera, more subtle. Also, Carol is going to work on the picture no matter what. I'll show you the difference when we're done. I'll make a list of the things you need. Thanks, Jerry. You made it possible for me to do it. You could, but not as well. Just one more thing you're going to need. A voice coach? This short session doesn't require you to talk, but you'll have to at that party. Mac, your voice needs work. You know just the right person to do the job, don't you? Of course, her name is on the list of makeup supplies. That's me, a professional artist who does it all. Now it's time to break a leg in that big scene. As I left the changing room, I felt completely at ease and walked into the studio until I saw the crowd. Someone had told everyone that today would be unique. Every person in the service was squished up against the back wall to look. She let out a whistle, which made everyone quiet right away. Mac, please. Carol said it out loud. Are you going to ruin the job? I'm not here to help you look good. I feel like Dr. Frankenstein. I made a very pretty monster. Thanks, Carol. I'll take that as a compliment. In his own way, Jerry is just as good as you are with computer systems. We wouldn't be where we are without both of you right now. I did a good job. Not only good, but also just right. I was in love and running through roses. I didn't care and wore the dress for the rest of the day, also going home that way, walking across the parking lot at both ends of the trip. When I went to bed, I was more than ready to take off the corset, no matter how badly I wanted to. I couldn't let it loose, but I still wanted to keep that girly look. There would be other days when I could treat myself. After a few sessions, my voice coach told me I had a sultry sound. We didn't try to make the pitch too high, but she taught me how to speak from a higher place in my throat, almost a nasal tone, but not quite. I did increase the pitch range in my words. Men tend to monotone, things that are subtle but effective. She helped me learn more feminine hand movements to go with the sound. That was really hard for me to keep up, but she told me it would get easier with practice. If I think I could last about an hour at the party, definitely very happy. The calendar pages turned over and over again. I got dressed as soon as I got home and tried a few times to live in the real world once I thought I knew how to use makeup well enough. I got a few close looks, but no one said anything. The week of the party, I gave up being a man entirely. Hey, everyone in the office knew what was going on, and when you're the owner, you have a lot of freedom. I put off meetings with clients because they had a tight schedule for a week. Once more, I should have seen it coming. But when my assistant called me the boss babe first, and she didn't mean Carol, that was a little scary. I guess there's no way to keep a picture of the boss and a dress inside the service. People say that exposure is always good. I really hoped that was true no matter what caused it in my case. I was nervous about the party that Friday, but I also felt good about my skills as the fresh scent lady. I chose to wear the outfit that caused a stir. The commercial had become a classic in its own right. Also, the shirt and skirt had nothing I didn't want to show. I didn't have to worry about some parts of my body that were too manly letting me down. I was glad I had tried it on a few days ago because it was too loose with the corset around my middle. Jerry was, of course, able to give me the name of the woman who helped me with it. I was getting pretty good at the makeup Jerry gave me. With the extra care, a lot depended on this, and I wanted to be great. He fixed my wig so I could pull the wood at the right time to shake it free, the thing that held everything together, and called me a beautiful piece of art. I liked that Carol was going to this small get-together with me. A lot of people were interested in the technical magic in the ads, and the client wanted her there to satisfy tech fans. Jerry did magic on her too. Carol, being a straightforward worker, usually wore pretty simple dresses and pants or a skirted suit once in a while when she wanted to make a good impression on a client. At my urging and the company's expense, she went to Betty Jeans and let Janet fit her into a smartly fitted outfit with a bit of a Southwestern look. It suited her grown and classy demeanor, a woman who knows what she wants in life. I guess it helped that she was a smart, mature woman who knew just how to get what she wanted no matter what she wore. Jerry did just a little makeup to accentuate this or that, and we were ready. The short cab ride bolstered my confidence. If I didn't get any extra attention from that gold standard for rudeness, a taxi driver in a big city, then I was ready to fool anyone. We walked with pride into the hotel lobby, now I could walk in high heels, and quickly found the room where the party was about to start. I did a bit of hovering behind Carol. She was the spokesperson for the firm, and I worked as a temp. We walked into a nearly empty hall where the last of the decorations were still being hung. June Willis, head of marketing for Fresh Scent Product, saw us and came over with a big smile. "If it isn't the boss babe herself!" I was lost, broken, and upset. Somehow I had forgotten the fact that our client could hear the reports the rest of the world heard. It would have to be like a man and soldier on, no matter how silly that metaphor might sound in the current situation. "Isn't she cute?" Carol saved me from having to answer. "June, meet Marcie. She is the one who made Fresh Scent a household word. It's not often that I can watch my ads make truth come true. Not bad, right?" "Are you Marcie? Mac wasn't going to work very well for this afternoon." "Hi, Miss Willis. It's great to meet you," I answered in my most feminine voice. I extended my hand, and it was hers. "That means Marcie it is. I'm going to take you two out for drinks after this and hear the whole story. The first time I heard it, I thought one of our rivals was trying to sabotage the effort. It was so outlandish that I didn't even bother to call you. Hey, Marcie, you've got more guts under that dress than a horse farm in Tennessee." "Miss Willis, I assure you I don't have any more than the usual amount. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent your company. It's been an interesting experience." "I bet. Let's not try to spook Roger. He's too quiet, and we don't need him going on the offensive in front of all the dealers." Roger ran the company. It had been a while since our last meeting, but I mostly worked with June on negotiating our contract. Things were getting tricky. June led us to the stage and introduced me to James Lodvik, the affable, gray-haired man from our competing outfit who was in charge of today's show. We got the specifics of the show from him. What I had planned to do was smile, hold up a bottle, then say something inane if people asked me about the ads. I was dismayed to learn that James had a whole emotional scene planned and hadn't thought to give me the least heads up. Our competitors are very cunning. I would be hidden behind the curtain, waiting for my cue, and come out with Fresh Scent's newest product. But not just any product, a big white, long-haired cat. This was due to the fact that the newest item was a shampoo for cats. I was to walk in with Tabby, please sit down and release my hair as seen in all the ads, and pet the cat for a second. I would then lift a large cloth off the table next to me, revealing the product. Since this was real life, Carol couldn't use her mechanical magic, and that would cue the text to release the balloons and rose petals from the tarp on the ceiling. They were supposed to float down slowly and draw attention to the fresh scent that sweet little Tabby would be enjoying in the tub. We should have done more than just their spots, because James didn't seem to have a clue about cats. Most likely, he had never lived on the same planet as a cat, because there were so many places where things could go wrong. Handling animals is a challenge when you can film them over and over until they do what you want them to. Counting on a scared cat to perform correctly the first time in front of real people was madness. I wanted so badly to tell June I had nothing to do with this, but I was supposed to be a good model doing what she was hired to do, not a creative expert. Okay, I'll play their game and hope our foe falls flat. I played with Tabby while the room slowly filled up, trying to get her used to me before we went public. She was a nice cat, but very skittish in these unfamiliar settings. I finally got a few purrs from her while she sat on my lap, but they were short-lived and stopped whenever someone got too close. There's something very feminine about petting a cat. As Tabby gradually calmed down and warmed my lap while I stroked her soft fur, a very pleasant feeling. By that time, I was in a nice fog of contentment when the show began. I was startled when my foe lightly warned me for 1 minute and touched my shoulder. Roger and June's usual blather was all I could hear along with James. Then a trained announcer took over and I stood up, holding Tabby close to my chest. The announcer's voice jumped with excitement, and I made my entrance just as he eagerly announced the pretty Miss Fresh Scent. I thought, dummy, I'm supposed to be a mom. That's Mrs. Fresh Scent. It didn't matter. I appeared to mild applause and smiled in gratitude, walking over to the chair. I took a moment to calm down Tabby, who was once again very scared, and listened to the announcer instruct me on my actions. I removed the cloth and tried to gracefully let my hair down. At that very moment, Tabby felt the shift as I shook my head and moved around below her. A loud, recorded fanfare played, and the balloons started their supposedly lazy descent. I believe we would have made it if only one balloon hadn't drifted right in front of Tabby. With her fight-or-flight reactions on high alert, she swiped at it, and it popped with a loud bang. The only reason my body doesn't have deep cuts and scrapes is because my corset had deeper padding than Tabby's claws. But the corset itself was damaged. Her howl was louder than both the fanfare and the bursting balloon, and suddenly my lap was empty. A number of the wholesalers were between me and where Tabby wanted to be, but they quickly scattered as she darted rapidly through the room and out the door. I have to commend Carol. She came to the women's room with me and helped and comforted me as if I were truly a distressed woman. She provided us with wet rolls of paper towels and extra towels to cover the stall as I washed myself. When I finally emerged from the stall, they had the good grace to only chuckle a bit. Roger, the genuinely remorseful CEO, apologized profusely and offered to compensate for the damage to my clothes, and hastily wrote a check for a generous bonus as we left. What a pity it was that I wasn't sure the bank would cash a check made out to Marcia. The crowd had dispersed by then, so Carol and I were able to leave fairly calmly. I noticed white fur sticking out from under one of the chairs and realized no one had thought of poor, terrified Tabby. I managed to coax her out from her hiding spot, gently held her and calmed her down. We never got to have lunch with June that day, but the boss babe managed to convince Fresh Scent later that we could handle all of their advertising needs in the future. People who didn't know the story found it hard to understand why I took Tabby home. She makes a great friend and loves being petted every hour. After everything she did for me, what else could I do but take her in with me? Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.